Japan is one of the countries that continues to astonish the world, not only through its culture, discipline, and technology, but through the way its people build in places that seem almost impossible. On an island nation constantly shaped by earthquakes, typhoons, high mountains, and deep waters, Japan has created suspension bridges across violent straits, artificial airports rising from the ocean, tunnels running beneath the seabed, and massive flood control systems hidden beneath its cities. What makes these projects extraordinary is that they are not only built for transportation or daily life. They reveal something deeply Japanese: the ability to turn danger into order, limits into design, and infrastructure into wonder. Today, we explore Japan's most impressive mega-projects, from world-famous icons to silent, hidden structures that feel almost unreal. Tokyo Bay Aqualine opens with a rare kind of drama, a highway that seems to disappear into the sea and then rise back into open sky. Opened in 1997 across Tokyo Bay, between Kawasaki in Kanagawa and Kisarazu in Chiba, this bridge tunnel route changed a long drive around the bay into a direct crossing over and under the water. On the Chiba side, the road skims across a 4.4-kilometer bridge, low and elegant, with cargo ships moving across the horizon, and Tokyo's industrial coastline fading behind the haze. Then the journey reaches Umihotaru, the artificial island rest area floating in the middle of the bay, where observation decks, restaurants, and ocean wind turn a simple stop into a destination. From there, the route dives into the 9.6-kilometer Aqua Tunnel, built beneath busy shipping lanes and engineered for the pressures of water, traffic, ventilation, and earthquakes. Nearby, the Kaze no To ventilation tower stands above the bay like a futuristic marker, quietly keeping the tunnel breathing. What makes Tokyo Bay Aqualine unforgettable is the contrast: sunlight and steel, sea air and concrete, a roadside pause surrounded by water, then the surreal calm of driving beneath the bay. It is modern Japan in motion, practical at first, then unexpectedly beautiful. Chubu Centrair International Airport sits on a man-made island in Ise Bay, just off Tokoname and south of Nagoya, where central Japan's manufacturing power meets the open water. Opened in 2005, Centrair was built to give the Chubu region a modern international gateway, one that could serve passengers, cargo, and the industrial rhythm of Aichi, with room to breathe. From above, the airport looks clean and deliberate. A long runway, curved terminals, aircraft stands, and a bridge pulling the whole island back toward the mainland. But what makes Centrair especially memorable is how accessible it feels. Trains roll directly into the airport, and the Meitetsu Mu Sky Limited Express can bring travelers from central Nagoya in under half an hour. Inside, Skytown adds a distinctly Japanese sense of place, with shops and restaurants that feel more like a small city than a transit hall. Outside, the sky deck lets visitors watch aircraft with East Bay behind them, a rare airport view that feels relaxed and wide open. Then there is Flight of Dreams, where a Boeing 787 prototype turns aviation history into something you can stand beneath. Centrair is not just a place between flights. It is central Japan's front porch to the world, polished, practical, and quietly proud of the region it serves. Irabu Ohashi Bridge stretches across the Miyako Blue like a bright white ribbon, connecting Miyako Island with Irabu Island in Okinawa's southern archipelago. Opened in January 2015, the bridge runs about 3.54 kilometers over shallow reef water, making it one of Japan's most unforgettable toll-free sea crossings. What strikes you first is the color. Not ordinary blue, but a glowing mix of turquoise, emerald, and glass-clear water that seems to light the road from below. The bridge has a graceful rise near the center, giving small ships room to pass, while offering drivers a slow reveal of the islands ahead. There are no towers fighting for attention, no heavy skyline behind it, just sea, sky, wind, and the clean sweep of concrete over coral shallows. Before the bridge, ferries shaped the rhythm of travel between the islands. Now, the crossing brings villages, beaches, ports, and everyday life into easy reach. For visitors, it turns a simple drive into a cinematic arrival. Irabu Island waits with quiet roads, fishing harbor views, and access toward Shimoji Island's dramatic coast. At sunset, the water softens, the bridge glows pale against the horizon, and the whole scene feels less engineered than composed. Irabu Ohashi Bridge is Okinawa at its most open-hearted, effortless, luminous, and almost impossible to rush through. Eshima Ohashi Bridge rises over Lake Nakawami between Tottori and Shimane, with a profile that has traveled far beyond Japan. From the right distance, through a long camera lens, it looks almost unreal, like a road climbing straight into the sky. That image gave it the nickname Roller Coaster Bridge, but the truth is more interesting than the illusion. Built between 1997 and 2004, This rigid-frame concrete bridge replaced an older drawbridge that stopped traffic whenever ships passed through. Its steep-looking shape was designed to give vessels enough clearance beneath the roadway, while keeping cars moving between Sakai Minato and Matsue. In reality, the gradient is manageable, but the visual drama is unforgettable. As you drive up, the water drops away, the horizon opens, and the lake spreads out beneath you like a calm inland sea. The bridge also carries a quiet working life importance. It links ports, neighborhoods, factories, and daily commuters, turning a once-interrupted crossing into a steady route. For travelers, the best view is from a distance, where the road seems to bend upward against the sky. Up close, it becomes something else, practical, solid, and cleverly engineered. Eshima Ohashi Bridge is proof that even a piece of infrastructure built for traffic can become a modern legend when perspective, design, and imagination meet. Kurobe Dam stands deep in the northern Japan Alps, holding back the Kurobe River with a curve of concrete that feels both monumental and strangely elegant. At 106 meters, it is Japan's tallest dam, but the height alone does not explain its power. To reach it, travelers move through the Tateyama Kurobe Alpine route, crossing mountains by tunnel, cable car, ropeway, and mountain transport before the dam finally appears, framed by steep rock walls and alpine air. Completed in 1963, Kurobe Dam was built for hydroelectric power during Japan's post-war growth, when the country needed energy as urgently as it needed confidence. Its arch design presses into the gorge, turning the force of water into stability, while the underground Kurobe No. 4 power station quietly converts mountain snowmelt into electricity. In summer and early autumn, the sightseeing water discharge becomes the signature moment. Huge streams burst from the dam face, falling into the valley as white mist rises into sunlight, and the sound fills the canyon like thunder rolling in place. Above the wall, Kurobe Lake lies calm and blue, reflecting peaks that can still hold snow when the lower cities are warm. Kurobe Dam is not just infrastructure. It is a high-altitude encounter with ambition, sacrifice, water, and stone, where Japan's engineering spirit meets the raw scale of the mountains. Onaruto Bridge rises over the Naruto Strait at the edge of Shikoku, linking Awaji Island with Naruto in Tokushima. And carrying the Kobe-Awaji-Naruto Expressway toward Japan's southern seas. Opened in 1985, this suspension bridge is famous for its 876-meter main span, but the real drama is moving beneath it. Here, the Seto Inland Sea and the Pacific push against each other through a narrow channel, creating some of the world's most mesmerizing tidal whirlpools. From the roadway, the bridge feels clean, strong, and purposeful, but step into the Uzu no Michi walkway, and the experience changes completely. Glass floor panels let you look straight down at water, twisting far below, as if the sea itself is breathing in circles. Tourist boats carve careful paths near the towers, giving the scene a sense of scale. Steel above, currents below, islands on both sides. The bridge also carries the feeling of a threshold. To the north is Awaji, quiet and green. To the south is Tokushima, the first taste of Shikoku's rugged coast and slower rhythm. At golden hour, cables fade into the sky, while the strait flashes with silver movement. Onaruto Bridge is not just a crossing, it is a front-row balcony over one of Japan's most hypnotic natural performances. Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel hides beneath Kasukabe, Saitama, about as far from a postcard as Japan can get, and yet it may be one of the most cinematic places near Tokyo. This is not a subway, not a bunker, and not a movie set, though it has the scale of all three. It is a massive flood control system built 50 meters underground to protect the low-lying Nakagawa and Ayase River basin, where heavy rain and typhoons can push smaller rivers beyond their limits. The system works like an underground river. Floodwater enters through intake facilities, drops into 5 giant shafts, then moves through a tunnel about 6.3 kilometers long before reaching the pressure-adjusting tank. And that tank is the image everyone remembers. At 177 meters long, 78 meters wide, and 18 meters high, supported by 59 concrete pillars, it feels like a hidden cathedral, built for water instead of worship. When the system operates, enormous pumps can move up to 200 cubic meters of water per second into the Edo River, quietly reducing flood risk above. On dry days, visitors can tour parts of the facility and stand inside a space that turns disaster prevention into architecture. The Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Channel reminds us that some of Japan's most impressive landscapes are invisible from the street, waiting below the city like a secret second skyline. Kurushima Kaikyo Bridge stands at the southern end of the Shimanami Kaido, where the island road reaches Imabari, and the Seto Inland Sea begins to move with real force. This is not one single span, but a dramatic sequence of 3 suspension bridges, tied together by 6 towers and massive anchorages, stretching more than 4 kilometers across the Kurushima Strait. Beneath it, the water is alive. Fast tides, swirling currents, and busy shipping lanes that have challenged sailors for generations. From the deck, the view feels wide and cinematic, with cargo ships, small islands, and blue channels sliding past in layers. What makes the bridge especially memorable is its human scale within that grand engineering. As part of the Shimanami Kaido, it welcomes not only drivers but also cyclists and pedestrians, giving travelers a rare chance to cross a world-class bridge slowly, with the wind and sea right beside them. At sunset, the towers turn into dark silhouettes, the cables catch the last light, and Imabari begins to glow ahead. Kurushima Kaikyo Bridge is a finale with momentum, powerful, graceful, and perfectly placed at the moment when the island journey meets Shikoku. It leaves you with the feeling that Japan does not simply cross difficult water, it choreographs the crossing. Tateyama Kurobe Alpine route crosses the roof of Japan, linking Toyama and Nagano through one of the most dramatic mountain corridors in the country. Opened in 1971, the route stretches about 37 kilometers, but the distance is only part of the story. What makes it unforgettable is the climb, nearly 2,000 meters of elevation change, carried by a sequence of trains, cable cars, highland buses, ropeway cabins, electric buses, and short walks that feel like chapters in a mountain epic. In spring, the famous snow wall rises along the road near Murodo, sometimes towering above travelers like White Canyon walls. By summer, alpine ponds, wildflowers, and volcanic valleys soften the landscape. In autumn, the mountains turn gold, rust, and crimson, and every transfer becomes a new viewpoint. The route's engineering is as impressive as its scenery. Tunnels protect vehicles from deep snow. The ropeway glides without support towers across a wide alpine valley, and the path eventually leads to Kurobe Dam, Japan's tallest dam, standing like a concrete crescent between cliffs. For American travelers, Tateyama Kurobe Alpine route feels different from a typical scenic drive. You do not simply look at the mountains from a distance. You move through them, step by step, machine by machine, until the journey itself becomes the summit. Seikan Tunnel runs beneath the Tsugaru Strait like an unseen corridor between Honshu and Hokkaido, turning one of Japan's roughest sea crossings into a steady rail connection. Opened in 1988, the tunnel stretches about 53.85 kilometers, with 23.3 kilometers under the seabed, making it one of the great undersea railway works of the modern world. Its deepest track lies roughly 240 meters below sea level, a number that changes the way you imagine distance, not across water, but through darkness, pressure, rock, and time. The story behind it is also deeply human. Before the tunnel, ferries carried people across the strait, where winter weather and powerful currents could make the journey uncertain. After the tragic Toyamaru ferry disaster in 1954, the dream of a safer fixed link became even more urgent. Today, Shinkansen trains and freight services use the tunnel, sharing dual-gauge tracks that reveal Japan's habit of blending speed with practicality. There are no sweeping views inside, no postcard moment from a window, and yet, that is exactly what makes it fascinating. The drama is hidden in the silence. Emergency stations, ventilation, waterproofing, geology, and the knowledge that above you, the sea is moving. Seikan Tunnel is not a landmark you look at. It is a landmark you pass through, feeling Japan quietly stitch two islands together beneath the waves. Rainbow Bridge curves across northern Tokyo Bay like a luminous gateway, connecting Shibaura with the futuristic waterfront of Odaiba. By day, it is a clean white suspension bridge, elegant against the city's glass towers and working harbor. By night, it becomes one of Tokyo's most recognizable scenes, glowing over the water as boats move below and the skyline flickers behind it. Opened in 1993, the bridge carries Tokyo's layered energy on two decks: expressway traffic above, local roads, the Yurikamome train, and pedestrian walkways below. That mix gives the bridge a living pulse, as if the whole city is crossing at once. For travelers, the walkway is the quiet surprise. On one side, you can look back toward Tokyo Tower and the inner harbor. On the other, the bay opens wide toward Odaiba, and on a clear day, Mount Fuji may appear in the distance. The bridge is not the longest or the tallest in Japan, but it understands drama. It frames Tokyo at its best: movement, reflection, water, light, and a little bit of spectacle. Rainbow Bridge is where the city takes a breath, steps out over the bay, and turns an ordinary crossing into a postcard you can actually walk through. Tokyo Gate Bridge stretches across Tokyo Bay, with the sharp profile of a steel creature rising from the water, which is why locals often call it the Dinosaur Bridge. Opened in 2012, this truss cantilever crossing links the artificial islands around Wakasu and the central breakwater area, helping traffic move around the port without cutting through the heart of the city. Its design had to solve a beautiful contradiction. The bridge needed enough clearance for large ships entering Tokyo port, but it also had to stay low beneath the flight paths of nearby Haneda Airport. The result is a wide, angular silhouette, strong enough for heavy road traffic and graceful enough to feel like public art. From the pedestrian walkway, the city opens in layers: container cranes, passing ships, Odaiba, Tokyo Skytree, and on clear days, Mount Fuji, sitting pale on the horizon. At night, the bridge becomes quieter and more futuristic, its lights tracing a clean line over dark water. Tokyo Gate Bridge is not the polished postcard of central Tokyo. It is the city's working edge, industrial, windy, spacious, and unexpectedly poetic. Stand near Wakasu, as planes descend and ships slide below, and you feel Tokyo as a living machine, still building, still breathing, still reaching out across the bay. Kansai International Airport rises from Osaka Bay, as if Japan decided to build a runway where the horizon should be. Opened in 1994, it sits on artificial islands off the coast of Osaka, created to give the Kansai region a 24-hour international gateway without crowding the city below. From the air, the airport looks like a precise geometry of runways, sea walls, bridges, and terminals floating in blue-gray water. On the ground, Terminal 1 brings its own drama. Designed by Renzo Piano, it stretches about 1.7 kilometers. With a long, wing-like roof that guides air through the building and gives the space a calm, aerodynamic flow. The arrival itself is cinematic. Trains and cars cross the Sky Gate Bridge from the mainland. And suddenly the airport appears ahead, separate from the city, yet completely tied to Osaka, Kyoto, Kobe, and the wider Kansai story. This place is also a lesson in resilience. Engineers designed it for earthquakes and typhoons, and the airport has spent decades adjusting to the soft seabed beneath it, turning maintenance into part of the megastructure's life. For travelers, Kansai International Airport is more than a place to land. It is a first frame, sea outside the window, mountains in the distance, and Western Japan waiting just beyond passport control. Haneda Airport, D-Runway, extends into Tokyo Bay, like a precision-built stage for one of the world's busiest city airports. Completed in 2010, this 2,500-meter runway became Haneda's fourth runway, helping Tokyo bring more international flights back closer to the city after decades of relying heavily on Narita. But the engineering story is what makes it extraordinary. Built near the mouth of the Tama River, the runway could not simply be placed on solid reclaimed land without affecting water flow. So engineers created a hybrid structure, part reclaimed island, part pier-like platform over the bay, allowing the river and tides to keep moving beneath sections of the runway. From above, it looks almost unreal. A long strip of asphalt floating beyond the terminals, surrounded by aircraft, taxiways, seawalls, and the glittering geometry of Tokyo Bay. Operationally, it changed Haneda's role, increasing flight capacity and helping the airport become a true gateway for both domestic and global travel. For passengers, the drama is subtle. You may only feel the wheels touch down, then glimpse water flashing past the window, But beneath that smooth landing is a carefully balanced act of aviation, hydraulics, urban planning, and environmental design. Haneda Airport D-Runway is Tokyo doing what Tokyo does best, fitting the impossible into a crowded space and making it work with remarkable grace. Tokyo Skytree rises above Sumida like a needle of light, giving Tokyo a vertical landmark that feels both futuristic and deeply tied to the city below. This 634-meter broadcasting tower was built to carry television and radio signals across a skyline that had grown too tall for older systems. But for travelers, it is far more than infrastructure. It is a way to read Tokyo from the sky. The ascent begins at Tokyo Solamachi, where shops, restaurants, and crowds gather at the base. Then the elevators lift you into a completely different scale of the city. At the Tembo deck, about 350 meters up, Tokyo spreads outward in every direction. The Sumida River, Asakusa's old streets, glass towers, expressways, rail lines, and, on a clear day, Mount Fuji, resting beyond the urban horizon. Higher still, the Tembo Galleria curves upward at around 450 meters, turning the view into a slow spiral through air and light. What makes Tokyo Skytree memorable is the contrast. Below, the city is dense, fast, and endlessly detailed. Above, it becomes patterns, movement, and distance. At night, the tower glows in changing colors, less like a building than a signal. Tokyo Skytree is Tokyo looking at itself from above, precise, restless, elegant, and always reaching higher. Akashi Kaikyo Bridge stretches across the Akashi Strait like a silver horizon, linking Kobe with Awaji Island and turning a once challenging sea crossing into one of Japan's most cinematic drives. At first glance, it feels almost weightless, but this is one of the greatest suspension bridges ever built, famous for its 1,991-meter central span. A distance so wide it seems to hold the sky in place. Beneath it, powerful tides move between Osaka Bay and the Seto Inland Sea, reminding you why this crossing demanded such bold engineering. The bridge was designed to endure fierce winds, deep water, heavy ship traffic, and even major earthquakes, making every cable and tower part of a quiet story of resilience. As you approach from Kobe, the twin towers rise like calm sentinels, framing blue water, passing ships, and the soft outline of Awaji beyond. By day, it is crisp, elegant, and impossibly precise. At night, Thousands of lights transform it into a glowing ribbon over the strait, changing the mood from engineering marvel to dreamlike landmark. For travelers, Akashi Kaikyo Bridge is more than a way across the water. It is a front-row seat to Japan's talent for turning necessity into beauty and movement into memory. Seto Ohashi Bridge is not just a bridge, it is an entire crossing woven across the Seto Inland Sea, linking Okayama on Honshu with Kagawa on Shikoku. From above, it looks like a chain of steel and concrete, stepping from island to island, carrying cars and trains over one of Japan's most graceful seascapes. Opened in 1988, this route was a turning point for the region, replacing long ferry journeys with a direct connection that changed business, travel, and daily life. What makes it unforgettable is the scale. A series of suspension, cable-stayed, and truss bridges working together across roughly 8 miles of open water and small islands. On the upper deck, drivers move through wide views of blue sea, fishing boats, and scattered green islands. Beneath them, trains glide along the lower deck, giving the structure a rare double life as both highway and railway. And then there is the light. Morning turns the water pale silver. Sunset warms the steel into gold. At night, the bridge becomes a quiet line of lamps stretching across the sea. Seto Ohashi Bridge is Japan's inland sea at its most poetic, practical, beautiful, and built with the confidence of a country that knows how to connect distance without losing wonder. Shimanami Kaido begins in Onomichi and carries you across the Seto Inland Sea toward Imabari. But what makes this route unforgettable is that it feels less like a highway and more like a slow-moving travel film. Across roughly 40 miles, the road links a chain of quiet islands, each with its own rhythm of fishing ports, citrus groves, hillside shrines, and sea-facing villages. For cyclists, this is one of Japan's great bucket list journeys, with blue route markers, rental stations, and bridge paths designed to make the crossing feel welcoming, not intimidating. One moment, you are pedaling beside calm water and moored boats. The next, you are climbing onto a bridge, watching the sea open beneath you in every direction. The Seto Inland Sea is gentle here, almost meditative, dotted with green islands that appear and disappear like brushstrokes in mist. Along the way, small cafes, local markets, and roadside overlooks invite you to slow down and notice the details: the scent of oranges, the sound of waves under concrete piers, the warm light settling on tiled rooftops. Shimanami Kaido is Japan at human speed. It is not about rushing from one destination to another. It is about crossing water, island by island, and realizing the journey itself has quietly become the view.